Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today we're going to be answering the question, just why am I building an empire? So it probably won't surprise many to learn that something that I'm asked about relatively frequently is why am I building this empire? What form is it taking? What's the purpose of it? And is there any benefits to being associated with it? And so I wanted to take a moment to discuss this in more detail. Just why am I building an empire? And how could it possibly help us to achieve our goals, promote our values, and accomplish our objectives? Specifically, to attain a de facto independence through legal and legitimate means by promoting greater levels of self-sufficiency and self-determination. With that in mind, what kind of empire am I building? And the answer to that is simple. I am building a federal empire based on voluntary association. That is to say, member states of the empire have joined willingly, and they remain a part of the empire willingly. We don't use force, coercion, blackmail, or anything else of that nature. Everything that we do here is done through voluntary association. There is, of course, various criteria that we consider when a nation applies to become a member state of the empire. This might be longevity. How long has that nation been around? It might be consistency. Has it remained consistent in terms of its ideology, in terms of its brand, in terms of its territory? Where is the territory that it claims and what does it consist of? In terms of its community, does it have a verifiable community? In terms of its activity, is there a proven track record of consistent activity, growth and development? These are the things that we consider, and more besides, when we consider the application of a nation to become a member state of the empire. Now, once a nation has become a member state of the empire, there are various things that they need to abide by. Specifically, they must accept a common head of state, a common foreign policy, common territory, common money, common citizenship, common military, and a common language. However, as keen advocates of federalism and decentralized government, we do insist that they retain control over their own domestic affairs. Feeding into that value system is our commitment to preserving the right to private property, and this includes the property of the member states of the empire. How they utilize their own lands is entirely up to them. And through these means, we are able to present the empire as a single unified force to the outside world, while nevertheless having an array of cultures and characteristics within our own ranks, with the core thing that unifies all of us being common values. In terms of its governance, while the overall direction of the empire as a whole is determined by Stomaria itself, we nevertheless have an advisory body called the Imperial Court. The Imperial Court consists of members of the imperial family, the heads of government of each member state of the empire, and provincial governors. And in this way, every member state of the empire and every province of the empire is represented in some way. Imperial Court meetings are held intermittently, and they're used as a way to keep the upper echelons of the empire informed about every aspect of the empire, in the sense that we use them as a way to discuss the development, the progress, or the setbacks of each member state of the empire, as well as the empire as a whole. It is a way of building bridges with one another and finding ways in which we can collaborate with each other in ways that advance our common goals. In this way, Stomaria remains at the head of this union of nations, but nevertheless involves others in helping to steer its direction. And the reason for this is very straightforward. It is Stomaria's empire. We have invested huge amounts of time, energy, and capital in building this empire. And while it's true that Stomaria does benefit in various ways by doing so, it is also true that the member states of the empire benefit in ways that Stomaria does not. Which brings me on to the reasons that nations would wish to become member states of the empire in the first place. On the lower end of the scale, this might be the artwork that we produce for them, or having their social media accounts advertised across our own platforms, as Stomaria is a comparatively popular nation-building project that member states can tap into. You could point to the ability of member states to purchase premium-free silver status from Stomaria at our expense, as well as being featured on these status. This makes the acquisition and utilization of a genuine commodity money, that being pure silver, far easier for those that form a part of the empire. Moving further along the scale, the empire as a whole offers opportunities that member states can take advantage of, not least engaging in tangible and mutually beneficial relationships with other member states through trade, commerce, and enterprise. But even more significantly is the potential for far closer collaboration in terms of land acquisitions through joint purchase agreements, using our combined resources to advance the interests of all parties, and expanding the territorial holdings of all the participants of such arrangements. Indeed, Stomarian lands have already been utilised by others for their own purposes, with as much as 30% of the imperial family's current territorial holdings being utilised by member states for the direct benefit of those member states. In turn, Stomaria is able to expand its reach and influence. It's able to accomplish its goals far faster than it would otherwise be able to do. And it is also a way to promote ourselves as a genuine alternative, not just to the conventional nations of the world, but also an alternative to micronationalism as most people understand it. And so while I make no bones about the fact that I wish to retain control of the empire that I have worked to build, and that I wish to use the empire as a means of accomplishing our goals far faster than we would be able to do by ourselves, it is nevertheless the case that the member states of the empire are presented with various benefits and opportunities that they can take advantage of. And as the empire expands, the potential for success grows amongst those who form a part of it. Because ultimately, when one succeeds, we all succeed. And you might be thinking, well, surely anyone could create their own empire or federation or organization of this nature and do exactly the same thing, engage in exactly the same activities. And this brings me on to one of the things that makes Stomaria and the Empire different from all the other entities out there that claim to be wanting to do the same thing. Me. Without putting too fine a point on it, I have been a public figure as the Emperor of Stomaria for well over half a decade at this point, with a strong record of constant activity, progress, and drive on full display. And over the years, I have seen hundreds upon hundreds of up-and-coming micronationalists, micronations, and micronational organizations come and go like the wind. I have seen our detractors and self-defined enemies of the empire fade into obscurity and oblivion, never to be seen again. And yet the empire endures. And this has been down to one thing: my unwavering determination to turn my vision into reality, to take what was nothing more than a flag stood in the corner of my living room and turn it into what it is today, one of the best known nation building projects in the world, something that is genuine and generational. For when Stomaria was founded, it had no citizens, it had no lands, it had no industries, it had no monetary system of its own, it had no allies, it had no member states, it had no noteworthy social media presence whatsoever, and on the face of it, we didn't look any different from any of the other hundreds or thousands of other entities that claimed to be wanting to do the same thing as we did. But what it did have is me. And despite suffering through numerous personal hardships over these years, I have nevertheless been able to bring Stomaria to where it is today. So yes, there are other entities out there, and many of them may claim to be wanting to do the same things as we do. But in the end, it will be Stomaria, the Empire, and those associated with us that will reap the rewards, that will go on to the next level of this great adventure, while we go on to accomplish things that most other entities can only fantasize about. So to conclude, the empire that I am building is based on voluntary association and is filled with those that believe fundamentally in freedom, in private property, private enterprise, and the natural rights of the individual. It's about bringing people together who hold common values, regardless of where they are in the world, and finding ways to collaborate with one another in order to accomplish our common goals. To combine our resources through voluntary exchange and through mutually beneficial engagement. It is an empire that has a decentralized federal structure that seeks to empower the member states of the empire, while nevertheless standing unified as a single, unassailable force to the outside world. It is a means of advancing the interests of all involved and accomplishing our common goals in real, tangible ways that has a direct and positive impact on all of our lives. Because at the end of the day, standing united in this way, there is nothing that we can't do. And that is why I'm building an empire. If you want to learn more about Stomaria or play an active role in our development and expansion, visit our website at www.stomaria.com and find out what it means to be a Stomarian.